I've got a really cool tutorial planned for you all. I hope that you're as excited as I am to be creating this flat design cactus. We're gonna be doing highlights. We're gonna be doing an outline around the entire object. We're gonna be doing some things that are different and unique to any other flat design tutorial on this channel. If you've already done the potted plants tutorial, some of this will be familiar, but there's definitely some things we're gonna be doing different. And even if you're a beginner, I wanna make sure you're able to follow along through the whole thing. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where millions of members can come together to take that next step in their creative journey. We'll get more into that here in a bit, but let's get started on this flat design cactus. So you can see what we're designing here, and I actually have all of the hex codes of all the colors that I use right here. And I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm gonna copy this and take it to our new document. If you guys wanna use the colors, I'll show you a little bit how I pick colors, but we're gonna start a new document, Command or Control N. I'm gonna do 1080 by 1080 pixels. I'm kind of just used to doing that. And I'm gonna make sure it's in RGB color mode. And we'll create this new document. Now I'm going to pretty much just ignore this artboard. We're not even really gonna use it. So let's get out here in some of this blank space. I'm gonna Command V, paste my hex codes, and we'll just zoom in here. So now I've got all my colors in here. One of the first things that I wanna do, and I wanna make sure that you guys are prepared for as you're following along, is that you've got the workspace set up the way you want it. You've got some global swatches set up with your colors, and also some of the settings in the view dropdown are the same as what I'm using. So first off, up in the view dropdown, we can see that I have smart guides checked, and I also have snap to point checked. I do not have snap to pixel, snap to grid, or show grid even, because those will kind of throw us off. Snap to point is gonna allow our objects to really snap together very easily. Snap to pixel can throw that off. It won't allow things to line up if they're in between pixels, which here in Illustrator, you get that a lot. Now we are dealing with pixels. If you didn't see that, I made that the unit of measurement in this video, but I don't necessarily care that I'm on each individual pixel. I want to be able to create what I want to create. So that's why we have that turned off. Now, if there's some other things that you don't see, for instance, hide corner widget here, that would be show corner widget if you have it hidden. So make sure that's turned on. And then if something is not showing up on your screen that's showing up on mine, come to this view dropdown and look through for guides or anything like that to make sure you're getting the same result that I'm getting. Now, I highly recommend that you play with all the Windows settings and the layouts. You can even save your own layouts. In fact, there's a class on Skillshare by Aaron Draplin, who's a great designer. There's a ton to learn from him. It's called like 21 Tips to Speed Up Your Workflow. It's all about Illustrator, and I highly recommend you go take it. It is a premium course, but the first 1,000 of you that click the link in the description or the top comment on this video not only help support this channel, but you also get 2 free months of premium Skillshare. After that, it's only like $10 a month, I think, for an annual subscription. It's creatives teaching creatives, and I love that about it. So me teaching you, Aaron Draplin teaching you, anything you want to find on there, there's some great classes for you to take on Skillshare. Now, back to this. So I've got this layout set up. You can click and drag these windows around, just like I was talking before. We're gonna get started on the pot. Now, if you've done the potted plants tutorial before, you might be familiar, but the first thing we're gonna do is create a circle. Now, L is the shortcut key for the ellipse tool, so I pulled that up. I want this to be, I think, this sort of tannish color right in here. The first thing I'm gonna do is select the direct selection tool. Shortcut key for that is A. I'm gonna click and drag to grab the top point, hit the delete key or backspace key on your keyboard, and we'll delete out that point. Now I wanna press P for the pen tool, that's up here, and I'm going to click on this. You see how it has a slash? That means I can continue this path. We need to close out this circle just by clicking and making sure that's an O. So now we actually have a full path here that's filled with that color. If it's not filled, you can click on this circle shape, press the I for the eyedropper tool, and you can click on any color you want that's on your artboard. So I recommend having these swatches built out because it's gonna make it really quick and easy for us to just click through and apply colors that we want to apply. So we've got a kind of a bowl shape here. I'm gonna press M, and that's the shortcut key for the rectangle tool. I'm going to create a rectangle, and basically what I want to be doing is chopping off a little bit of the bottom of this half circle. Now I'm going to press V for the move tool or selection tool. I'm going to select both of these, and then Shift M, I'm going to show you these every time I talk about it, is the shape builder tool. And we're going to hold Option or Alt, and we can click and drag through these shapes, and it's going to cut away our shape right there. So that's a really quick way. We're going to be using the shape builder tool quite a bit to cut shapes, add shapes, merge shapes, all that kind of stuff. We'll use Pathfinder as well, but the shape builder tool, Shift M, is very easy and quick to use. Now we've got this little shape here, and I kind of feel like it's a little bit wide. I don't know about you guys. So I'm going to press A for that direct selection tool. I can just grab these 2 points right here, and I can bring them in by holding Shift and just pressing the left arrow key. You might just press the arrow keys and not hold Shift, but it just kind of depends on how large or small that increment is for you. Now that we've got this, I'm actually just going to round these corners a little bit. So you see the corner widget is showing up. We'll round them just a little bit up here, and then we can select these bottom 2 points. Remember, I've still got direct selection selected, so the tool, so that's shortcut key A. And I can select these bottom 2 points, and I can individually just round them off as well. So we've sort of got this little pot shape right here. I'm going to create a rectangle, shortcut key is M, and we're going to just kind of do a little detail on it right through here. Maybe about that size and about that location. Press I for the eyedropper, and I'm going to grab, I think it's this one that is the color for this band. And if I select all my objects with the selection tool, V is the shortcut key, then I press Shift M. That's the shape builder tool again, and I'm going to chop off the 2 side pieces right here. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. So this is our pot. We're going to go ahead and add some highlights. We're going to add some shadows, and we're going to add an outline. Now with this, it might be a little bit different than with some of the other things that we're going to be doing with highlights and shadows, but let's go ahead and open up the pen tool. Shortcut key is P for the pen tool, and it doesn't really matter what color I have, but I do want it to be a fill. I'm going to click somewhere in here and go ahead and click and drag. It's going to create some anchor points. And then as I click maybe down in here and drag, I'm still holding and dragging, I can actually create an sort of arc shape. This is going to be our highlight on this edge of the bowl, or the pot, it's not a bowl. And if I kind of like that outline, I'll just let go, and we'll click way over here. We'll click way up here, and then we'll close this off. Just make sure that you cover up the entire left half of this. So now I'm going to switch to that selection tool, shortcut key V, select all, Shift M for the shape builder tool. I'm going to just hold Option or Alt and click on this outside shape, and then press V again, and we've got our selection tool. And now I have this piece. I have a piece right on top of my pot here that is the highlight. I can press I, go grab my highlight color, and then I believe I probably dropped this to something like 35% or something along those lines for the highlight along the left side of the bowl. Now we want the shadow. I think the shadow we're going to do the exact same way. So P for the pen tool, click and drag, and something like this. I want a little bit more coverage than the highlight. And we're just going to click around until we close that off. Same thing, just kind of select everything with V, the selection tool, Shift M, and then we're going to hold Option or Alt and just click and get rid of the outside of that. Now we got this piece. I'm going to press I for the eyedropper tool and grab this sort of purpley color, kind of a shadowy color. And I believe what I want to do with this is actually take the opacity to multiply. So I just clicked on the opacity in the appearance panel in my properties panel. And once again, maybe 35%, maybe it's 25. I don't really know. This is kind of up to you on how dark you want different things to be. I want to go ahead and group this whole thing together. So I selected everything, right click, group it all together. So now we can move it around and we don't have to worry about all the parts and pieces. I'm going to duplicate it by holding Option or Alt and bringing it out here. I'm also holding Shift to keep it lined up. You see that pink line with the smart guides? And now I let go. And now I just want to merge this whole thing. You see what I'm doing in this tutorial is I'm actually creating the outlines separate from the shapes themselves. The reason for that, in some cases, you can get away with just creating it with the shape, like adding a stroke with the fill that is your shape. In this case, I'm just going to create its own stroke that we can manipulate. And then if we want to, we can hide things underneath that stroke. So sometimes you have highlights or you have shadows that go outside of the edge of your shape for a number of reasons. And by creating these strokes separately, you can actually layer those and keep all those highlights and things and maybe the imperfections underneath the stroke itself. So what we're going to do here is just go to our Pathfinder options and we're going to unite. So it's just one big shape. And I'm going to flip the fill and the stroke. So now we just have a stroke. And I'm going to go ahead and eyedropper this down here. You guys don't have this, but what it is this color. So if you wanted to make it that color, you can. But you can actually just look over here, and my stroke right now is set up as 3 points. It may change as we go along, and it's probably going to be different for you. But the stroke itself, what I want is for this stroke to be aligned to the outside. I want all my strokes to be aligned to the outside of the shape. That'll give it the best look, I guess, if you will. And also, when you're creating or when you're adding more points to your stroke, it's going to add outward. It's not going to cover up the center. So that's definitely what I want. And the other thing to keep in mind with these is I would go ahead and click round join and round cap. Everything we're going to be doing is fairly rounded. If you have a miter corner, it might have some issues here and there, and we may come across them, but I would just do round on both of those and align it to the outside. Now what we can do is just select both of these and we're just going to align them horizontal and vertical. So now we have our bowl with our outline around it. And that is it. And I called it a bowl again, but it's really a pot. Now we are going to go ahead and start the cactus. Now, this is kind of interesting how we're going to do this one. I'm going to actually maybe stay over here so I can see my greens. We're going to select not the pen tool, but actually in the shape options, if you click and hold, there's a line segment tool. It's a little slashy icon. And we're going to create a segment like this. And this line that we have, we're going to up the stroke. I'm not sure how much. I can hold shift to go by tens. This is going to be our cactus, like the main body of our cactus. I think 60 point for what I'm doing works pretty well. Now, the stroke itself, you want to make sure, once again, you got the caps rounded, the corners are rounded. And in this case, a line stroke doesn't matter. But the caps being rounded is what's giving it that round look. You see that? What I want with this is actually the color to be, and I can select this, press I, this color right here, this green. And now it went away. That's because we sort of selected the fill color. We can swap those really quick just by clicking those double-ended arrows. And now apparently I've got to redo my stroke, but that's okay. We know it's 60. And we also know we need to round it and round the corners. So maybe that wasn't the best idea to do that. Maybe I should have just used the hex code in this case. But that's okay. So we've got our cactusy guy here, our cactus body. Now we're going to create the two, we'll call them arms. I'm going to press P for the pen tool, and we're going to click and drag. I'm also holding Shift. Shift will keep this into 45-degree increments. In this case, I'm dragging in the direction that I want to go, which is down. This is the top of one of the arms. And if I drag a little, it's just going to be allowing me to create a curve with this. So we clicked once. Now I'm going to kind of click in here along where this path is, and I'm going to drag outward as if we were continuing on. But I'm just looking at the spine of this line, and I'm going to create a shape where the top of it becomes more vertical, just like that. I believe this is way too big, so we're going to drop the point size of this maybe down to 40. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Now with this, you can select it, and if you hit the A key for the direct selection tool and click the path, you're going to see those not the anchor points, but the handles again. So you can readjust these handles if you want to create the exact look that you're going for. I think I'm going to create a little more influence with this handle, so it's a little bit more of a right angle at the bottom. Maybe something right in there like that. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing over here, but it's going to be a little bit shorter. So P for the pen tool, click and drag in the direction you want to go, holding shift to keep that sort of lined up straight up and down. And then I'm going to maybe click right in here, drag it out, just start to create the shape that we want our final product to look like. And we can use our arrow keys with that selection tool and kind of move it out that way. And then there's a little bit of a blemish here, if you will, where it's like maybe it's kind of a corner. So I'm going to try to work with that with these handles. And I think I'm going to pull this one back a little bit and maybe push this one down a little bit, using that direct selection tool to try to get it a little bit more rounded. You see how it kind of chops off some? So I want it to be round. That's pretty good right there, actually. I think I like that. We are ready to start really getting the details in on this cactus. Now, even though we've created these guys all together, we're really going to work with them separately from here on out. I'm also going to be creating a lot of duplicates, so holding Option or Alt will become second nature to you. Also holding Shift to keep it lined up with the previous object. Every time that I make an adjustment to this in which it's going to change the shape or make something that is not editable, I'm always going to create a duplicate, so I always have that editable version right behind it that I can go back to if I need to. This guy is made out of strokes, but this guy over here, I'm going to go up to Object when it's all selected, down to, we could do Expand, or we could even go to Path, and there's a nifty little outline stroke option. So now these are all shapes rather than strokes. And that's what I want to do to start with the Prickles. I don't know if that's what they're called, but that's what we're going to call them. So duplicating another one out by selecting all, holding Option or Alt, and clicking and dragging. Now, let's look at these guys individually. Individual pieces. This one here, I don't really want the rounded bottom. So I'm going to press M to make another rectangle, click and drag, and make sure it's above the threshold of where that curve starts. So somewhere in here would work. Press V for the selection tool, select both, Shift M for the shape builder tool, and hold Option while slicing and dicing right through that. So that's going to be the bottom of our cactus. Now to do the Prickles, and I'm just going to move this arm right over here. To do the Prickles, this is the part that I think is kind of nifty. So I'm going to click and duplicate this guy out again, and I'm going to switch the fill and stroke simply so that we can see this better. Let's zoom in a little, Command or Control plus or minus. I'm going to press C. This is the little scissors tool over here. And what I can do with this is cut at an anchor point. So I'm going to cut at both of these two anchor points. Press V for my selection tool. You'll see I've got this piece selected, and I'm going to delete it just by pressing the delete key. Now I've got a path that starts here and comes over to here. Why did we do this? Well, it's a pretty cool feature, blend feature, here in Illustrator. I'm going to show you how to do it, and it's going to be how we create the Prickles around our little cactus. If you saw on the thumbnail, there's little dots that are kind of like the spikes that come out of the cactus that go all the way around it. Placing those individually around it, where they're equally distant from each other, where they're the same size, where they're appropriately spaced, like within the cactus itself, is just a crazy manual chore. So here's a way that we can automate that through the blending feature. I'm going to create a circle, press L for the shortcut key, and this ellipse, maybe we'll just click and create one that is, let's say, I'm just going to do 10 by 10. I don't really know. I think that's too big. Hit OK. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit too big. So I could come up here in my transform panel, in my properties, and maybe make this 5 by 5. We can change this later, but it's not really a big deal. All right, the other thing I want to do is switch the fill and stroke again, just like that. So we've got a little dot out here. Now I'm going to click and duplicate. I might need to zoom in because there's too many things to click on. So duplicate, holding Option or Alt. and clicking and dragging. Okay, so we got 2 circles now, right? I'm gonna select both, go up to Object, down to Blend, and first we'll look at Blend Options. In Blend Options, we got a couple different spacing options. I'm gonna select Specified Steps. That allows me to say how many objects are gonna be between the 2 objects I'm blending. Orientation, this first one's fine. So hit OK, nothing happens. Why? Well, we just adjusted the options. We gotta go back to Blend. We gotta hit Make Blend. And it's gonna create 8 shapes in between my 2 shapes. Cool, we got a little caterpillar out here. All right, so I can select this. I'm going to hold Option and duplicate it because we'll reuse that later. This guy down here, there's a cool feature. If I select him and I select my path out here, just select both, go up to Object, down to Blend, and we're gonna replace Spine. You see the line that connects the 2 blend objects, which can be bent, it can be any sort of shape, is called the spine, and we're going to replace that spine with the shape of our cactus. So once we click Replace Spine, that's going to basically send the blend and the 8 objects around our cactus shape. Starts here, ends there. Now, I want some more dots, so I'm going to select this. This whole thing is our blend now, and I can go up to Object, down to Blend, Blend Options, and here, now, you can actually preview this, and we can press the up and down arrow keys on this number just to create the number of points we want. Make sure you leave some open space here at the top, so don't do, I guess in my case, an odd number where there's a dot at the top. Leave open space because when you're creating the little flower at the end, I think it looks better when it's an open one and not right on one of those prickly bumps. So I like 14, I'm just gonna hit OK. What on earth are we gonna do with this? Well, pretty cool. What we can do is grab this old body, I guess. I'm gonna just duplicate it over like we have been doing, select both of these, and we're gonna line those up with the alignment tool so they're just horizontally aligned. You can also vertically align them if you want, maybe to the top here, so that both the top lines up in case you were thrown off a little bit by dragging it. So there we go. Now we got these little prickly things out here. This guy, once again, I'm going to duplicate him. We're gonna have a bunch of objects on our artboard, you guys. That's just how I work. I wanna duplicate him before I commit all these objects. And what I'm gonna do is make sure I grab, and I'll have to zoom in, grab that blend, go up to Object, down to Expand. So just check Object and Fill, and we're gonna hit OK. Now we've expanded this, and so I can actually edit each individual dot now because they are in a group, and I can just double click in on that group to edit these dots. Just delete out the bottom 2 because I don't like the way they sit below the cactus. So I can double click out, and if I click and drag and select this group and this cactus shape and go over to my Pathfinder options, I can click merge, and now this is literally all one shape. All right, I know that was a lot just to get to there, but we're gonna do the same thing to these guys. Now, I'm just gonna keep these pieces and parts over here and just duplicate them over. Because I'm doing 2 more, I want another blend, so I'm gonna duplicate this guy. And actually, I'm gonna duplicate it one more time for one that we're not using, so we could come back to that later if we needed to. So same thing up here. What we're gonna do is just click and drag, make a duplicate, remember Option or Alt for that. Flip the fill and stroke. You don't have to do this, but I think it helps me kind of see the outline. Click and drag to select the blend and this, and we'll just go Object, Blend, Replace Spine. Same thing for this guy. Alt or Option. We actually don't, I'll show you, we don't need to make it an outline. So we can just select both. It uses the path, so you really don't have to worry about the outline. Blend, Replace Spine, just like that. Now what we can do is select these 2 shapes right here. See how the spine is still the same shape? And we can just align it just like that. Same thing up here. Select these 2 shapes and we will align it together. Now I see something's getting thrown off here and I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest, but I think what I'll do is align it to the bottom or maybe the top. Looks like we'll align it to the top and the left. I'm not entirely sure why that was thrown off and why it's not centered, but we're gonna probably do the same thing on this one. Let's find out. Let's align it to the top first. And it looks like the middle works. Yeah, left, right, middle, that's all the same. With that technique there, we obviously kind of threw off a few things. I'm not really sure what, but with those alignment tools, we were able to find our way back to the center. So just work on that to get them aligned back to the center. And now you got the little pricklies that go around the outside. I think what we can do here, if we select the blend, we go up to object down to blend options. We can sort of adjust this to see exactly where we want this to line up. So maybe I want 9 or 10. I think I'll do 10 on this one. And we can select this blend. And I kind of want maybe 2 up here. So we'll go up to blend, or go up to options, or object down to blend options. And we'll do the same thing. We'll kind of look and see, and we'll preview it. I like that right there. I like 9 on this one. I'll hit OK. So now, of course, remember before we had this object right here that has the blend with it. So we're going to keep those together. And I'm going to take these 2 guys, duplicate everything, holding Option or Alt, bring it out here. And I'm just going to click, and I can actually drag on both of those at the same time and go up to Object down to Expand. And we can expand the fill and everything else. And then we can select them individually. So I'm going to select this group and this object, hit that merge button. Same thing with this guy. Select that group and that object, hit that merge button. Okay, so now we got little prickly arms and we've got the prickly body. And we can keep this little blend over here. So this is like our blend area, right? Like I said, we're going to be duplicating a lot of things, and we're just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. I need the highlight and the shadow, and then we're going to do the outlines. And then we'll pretty much have it. And we'll do the flower at the very end. I'm going to grab this body, and I'm going to duplicate him out here. And we're going to zoom in a little bit. And with this guy, I think what I actually want to do, and this is why we kept some of our old shapes, I'm going to go back and grab this piece up here, and I'm going to duplicate that. Option or Alt. You know the drill. You should definitely know that one by now. All right, so what I actually want to do here is create a highlight on the left side. So I want to overlap these 2 shapes. I'm going to create the edge of the highlight right here with these 2 shapes. Now with this one in front, and if it's not in front, we can right click, arrange, and just bring to front. With this guy in front here, I'm actually going to increase his size. Make sure you hold shift while you do this, just by a little bit, right in there. So now I can see with these 2 shapes that I've created this edge over here that's going to be my highlight. I'm going to press Shift M, that's my shape builder tool, and I'm just going to click on the left side here. And what that did was it created or split that object. So now I can bring this over, and look, now I actually have this piece that's been sort of cut out, right? And what I can do with this one is just go back to my swatches and find my highlight, press I for the eyedropper tool, and while it's selected, notice it's still selected, I'm just going to click on this little shape right there. Hex codes are there if you need it. So there's my highlight, and now I just need to create my shadow. And we're going to do that in the exact same way, as a matter of fact. But my shadow, I think I want to be a little bit wider than the highlight. And I need to see sort of where that crosses over, right in there. Okay. So we're going to bring it to here, maybe, right in here. And we can also bring this up a little bit more. So what I'm looking at here, if I click and select both, you see where the highlight is. You see where the outline of the highlight is. I don't want that to cross over with the outline of the shadow. So I'm just manipulating this top shape to get me the curve that I want right there on this side. Once I've got it, Shift M, click on this shape here with the plus icon. You don't hold any buttons, just click on it. Then go back to the selection tool, shortcut key is V. And now we can delete out this top shape, and we can click on our right shape there. Go find our little swatch for our, whatchamacallit, shadow right there. And we're good to go. We just eyedroppered that with the I shortcut key. So we can talk a little bit about color. What I did for the highlight and the shadow color in this case, the highlight, I made it a little bit more yellow and then brighter. And the shadow, I made it a little bit more bluish purple and darker, but it's still in that same green family. So if we look at this and I eyedropper and click on this guy, if I double click on the swatch here, I pulled this down towards the yellow and then made it a little bit brighter straight up from where that swatch is and hit OK. So maybe even more yellow, and that was my highlight. And now from that middle tone, I did the same thing in reverse. So I pulled this up into more of the blue tones and made it also darker to create the shadow color. So that's how I sort of created the colors. And that's pretty much how I created the colors for like everything in this tutorial. We've got the highlights and everything on our main piece here. Let's grab some arms and we're basically gonna do the exact same thing. Now I duplicated that out so we can keep it, and I'll grab this little piece right here. Now with the arms, it gets a little bit dicey in my opinion. If I drag this over the top here and kind of start to look at where it is crossing over, I think this one's gonna be okay. I wanna bring this shape without the pricklies to the front, so I'm gonna click on it and just arrange, bring to front. And I'm always looking at where these outlines intersect, and I'm looking at the left side because this is going to be my highlight. And I think I want to bring that over maybe into here, just over a little bit more. And remember, I increased the size of the shape that's on top. It gets weird if you don't increase the size. So increase the size a little bit, and I think that'll work right there. Shift M and hit the plus, or just click on it, right, when it's a plus, and it's going to create that shape on the left side. Now we can reuse this guy, and we'll sort of move them over, and we're going to create the shadow. And I'm going to select everything just so I can see where I'm at. Okay, so clearly I need to bring this top shape down. So we're going to bring him down some, maybe like right in there. And I think I can actually make this a little bit smaller. So I'm going to scale that in, holding Shift. And let's see where that is. I don't mind that. I think that's a decent spot. So I'm going to select them both, Shift M, and just click on that right side. And it's going to cut that up. And now we have our highlight area, which we click on, press I, just eyedropper the highlight side. Click on the right side, which is our shadow, press I, eyedropper the shadowy color. And there we go. Now we just need to do the little guy. So I'm going to duplicate the little guy without the pricklies, and we'll grab the prickly, duplicate with Option or Alt. Pretty simple. It's kind of repetitive, but it's this is how you do it. So the right side is going to be shadow once again. Now I probably need to bring this guy to the front like usual. Arrange, bring to front. Okay, so now we're just going to scale this up, holding Shift. We're going to try to find the best spot for the highlight here. And it's possible, or actually this is the shadow, of course, the shadow here. It's possible that we might need to break out the pen tool for this one, but we'll see what we can do. So I'm just increasing the size a little bit, kind of moving it around, bumping it around, and I'm just looking at this right edge until it's the shape that I want it to be. And I think we're pretty close. We'll just kind of see how that pans out. I think I want to drop it down a little. I don't like how these two measure up, so we're just going to use the arrow keys to maybe bump it in right in there. Now I like how those are parallel. Okay, Shift M and just click on where the shadow should go. Good. Now let's create the highlight. Same kind of concept here. Let's see how close those are. I don't want them to cross over. That's pretty decent. I'm actually going to maybe make this a little smaller. The reason being is I kind of want this curve to be a little sharper up here. And I do want it to cover this little prickly guy, so I'll just use the arrow key right there, just once. Let's see how close those are. Okay, so those are going to overlap, so we don't want that. So maybe I got to bump that up a little bit and take a peek at it again. Now I see a little prickly showing up down here. We can handle that here in a second because we're just going to bump that over one more time. Okay, so Shift M, click on this leftmost shape. Now we can just delete that piece right there, and then we're going to click on the highlight. Eyedropper, I key, click on the highlight section. Shadow, same thing. Select it, eyedropper, the shadow. There we go. Now we have our pieces, and this one might be a little bit not as good as the other one, but you can always edit this with the pen tool. You can redo it. Well, this is why we save these pieces over here. So if you wanted to, you could actually use the pen tool. P is the shortcut key, and you could come in here and create your own. And I'm gonna actually click and drag to start this. But I could create my own shape here and basically my own curve to this if I wanted to. Something like that, and then I could come back outside of the shape like so. And one thing I want to do, I think, is sort of bring this in a little bit more like that. And so in this case, we can select everything, Shift M, I'll hold Option or Alt to get rid of the outside, and then I'll do the same thing where I just click on this, and now we have that shape over here, just like that. And I can eyedropper the left side of this cactus. Now, it's kind of difficult to get the shape. The reason that I duplicate the cactus arms and then use them over top of the same arm to create the highlights and the shadows is because it gives you the same angles and the same curves that you had in that original shape, which sometimes when you do like we just did with the pen tool, it can be kind of hard to duplicate that, and it can require a lot of tweaking to get that just right. So if you resize, scale up, scale down that top shape, you can kind of get the curves and stuff that you want as the highlights and as the shadows in your shape. All right, but that's enough talking about these. What do we want now? We want to actually, I believe, create the outlines. And how we're going to do that is by selecting this. Same thing as we did the pot. We're going to right-click, group, and then duplicate it out like usual. Go ahead and use the Pathfinder option to unite that shape together. And then if you wanted to, you could find your pot over here, and you could press the eyedropper key and find that edge. And you could click on it, and it's going to eyedropper that outline. And if we look at it, it's 3 points, stroke, outside edge. We made sure these are all rounded, and that should be good. Now, with this grouped, what we can do is actually just use our alignment options here, vertical and horizontal, to align that outline to our shape. Same thing with these guys. Group it together, duplicate it, use the Pathfinder option to sort of flatten that, and then I'm going to press the I key, grab that outline, and then we're just going to not merge, but align these two guys together by selecting them both, clicking align. Same thing with this guy. Duplicate, well, actually first, we're going to do Command or Control G, that's group, same thing with ungroup, and then we'll duplicate him out, and then we will smash them together with the merge Pathfinder option, and then we'll press eyedropper this outline, and then select them both and slam them back together, just like that. And now what we can do is actually grab this whole piece and group it all together. Same thing with these guys, group them. Same thing with this dude, group him. And we can bring the arms back to our cactus. So now you can line these up wherever you want. And of course, I'm going to click on the body, right click, arrange, bring to front. Want him in the front. So yeah, we can bring these and move these around to literally wherever we want. And the other thing that we can do is click and grab all of this, Command G or Control G to group it all together, and we can bring him over to our pot. And I'm actually going to duplicate one more time. And let's get some of these guys out of the way. They're kind of hard to grab because they're only paths. So move them out of the way and bring this guy in. And of course, he is on top, so we're going to right click, arrange, and we're going to send him to the back. And there we go. What we can do is we can shift click on our pot, click on it again. That's aligning to a key object. And we can use the center align to help align this whole thing to the center here. Now let me show you an interesting little tool here. You can select the same type of appearance or stroke or fill. So in this case, we could select the same stroke weight, and that's going to select everything that's the same stroke weight. Now, in this case, there's not multiple stroke weights on our document, but if you do select something and it has a stroke weight, you can go up to select same stroke weight, and it will select everything that's the same stroke weight as what you had selected. What's cool about this is you can edit the stroke weights. So we can just come here and say, oh, you know what? This is not enough. I need it to be 5. So we did 5 points instead of 3. And then we can even double click on this group and we can move these arms around to make sure that they're lining up how we want them to in relationship to the main cactus itself. We can double click out and here we go. Here is our cactus, you guys. I think we did pretty good. The last thing maybe we want to do is just create a bigger square like so. So the shortcut key is M for that. And then I'm going to eyedropper this background color. And I'm going to, well, not lock it in place yet. First, I'm going to actually grab our cactus, group the whole thing together, Command or Control G, select our background, click on our background, align our cactus to our background, realize that our background is in front of everything, so we right click it, arrange, and send to back. So now we have our cactus on a background. I'm going to click on the background and press Command or Control 2, and that's going to lock that object. So now we cannot accidentally move it. And the one thing you probably saw in the thumbnail is we had a little line here at the bottom. So let's go back to that line segment tool, click and hold to find it. And I'm going to find the bottom with that smart guide and just create a line segment across here. And I'm going to, of course, press the I key for the eyedropper tool and select our, the stroke we've been using this whole time. It's now 5 point. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And what I actually want to do is just bring this down so it covers up the bottom edge here. And I might use my arrow keys just to find that. So I don't want the pot to go outside of the bottom edge. Right there is perfect. And then what you can do here, just for a little stylistic effect, you can press the C key for the that scissor tool, and you can cut some different spots on this path, just like that. And then you can press A to grab one of these points and press your arrow keys to move it left and right to sort of create a little bit of a, stylistic effect to this bottom line here. And you can just click on these, use your arrow keys as needed. Just like that. Wow. So there you have, no, we gotta create the flower at the top. Okay, I almost forgot. I knew there was gonna be something that I forgot. Let's get in here, we'll create the little flower at the top and then we'll be done. All right, so I'm gonna zoom in and what I wanna do is actually find my colors for the flower. I believe that I did this by pressing L for the ellipse tool, creating an ellipse or a circle, holding shift. And I believe I'm gonna just eyedropper that red color and create 2 of these, select them both, shift M, and I'm going to get rid of the outside 2 edges. And what I want to do here is actually select this and press A for the direct selection tool. And we're just going to round these corners off a little bit, something like that. Now I'm going to duplicate this out and just rotate it. And I'm going to rotate it as much as I want, maybe something like that. I'm not even going to hold shift or anything. Then I can sort of bring him back over the top. Command or Control C, and then I can actually paste on top. So object, or actually edit, paste in front. That's Command or Control F. If I press that, I get another duplicate right on top of it. And then over here is a really quick way to just flip along the horizontal axis like so, and bring this guy over here. Now what I want to do is I actually think I want to widen this a little bit. So we'll come over here like that and like that. And I think I like that look in general. And so with these 2 outside pieces, I'm actually going to group them together, not join, wrong button, group them together, then select all, in this case 2, it would be 3, but this is a group. So 2 pieces, this group and the middle piece. Use the alignment tool, and that'll make sure the middle piece is right in the center of these 2 guys. I guess what we want to do is maybe just create a duplicate so you can save that for later. But for this one, we're going to merge it together. Easy peasy. And then we're going to add our outline. I want to show you something here. If we click on this and we click the eyedropper button or tool, we double click on the eyedropper tool, you get eyedropper options. You can actually pick up what you want. So you could pick up only the stroke or only the fill or both or all these other things. What I want to do is pick up only the stroke. So I'm going to not do the fill and I'm not going to apply the fill. Neither of those. So no fill. And what we can do is just eyedropper this guy down here, and that will only apply the stroke, but it will keep the fill the same as our shape. Now these eyedropper options will stay like that, so you might want to go switch them back once you're done using it like that. But that's a really nifty way to eyedropper only the fill. Now with this shape, it's probably way too big. I'm going to duplicate it down again, and we're going to size it down just by grabbing the corner of the bounding box, holding shift and sizing it down to the size that we want. Somewhere in here is probably okay. I noticed something here. The stroke should be on the outside. So that'll retain the actual shape and put the stroke on the outside. So that's better. We are going to make it smaller. Maybe something like this. And then we click on that, hold shift, click on this, press it again. That's going to be aligning to the key object. And I'm going to center that. And then we can just bring him down, straight down, like so. He's on top. So I actually want to bring this object on top. So right click that and arrange, bring to front. There we go. Now we can stick him out as much as we want up here at the top. And that's our little flower that goes on top of our cactus. We almost forgot to add the flower on top of the cactus. Looking at this, I got highlights, I got shadows, I've got the highlights and shadows on the cactus and the arms. We've got the outlines around everything. Looks like everything's good. We got the little cool nifty thing that it's sitting on, like the ground at the bottom. We got a little flower on top. I think I taught you a lot of things. I think this was super long. I know my camera shut off once, probably twice. I had to take a break in the middle of it. But I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope it was also easy to follow along. I realized as we went along, I probably left out some shortcut keys and things, but hopefully you learned a lot as you went through and were able to just follow along with what I was doing. So, duplicate objects, you gotta click it, select it with the selection tool, shortcut key is V, hold Option or Alt on your keyboard and click and drag. You should know that one by now. The shape builder tool, that's Shift plus M on your keyboard. What else were we doing? The direct selection tool is A, the selection tool is V. Direct selection allows you to select points and things individually on your shape, so use that in that case. And selection tool will select like the entire object or group. The shape tools, the rectangle is M, the ellipse is L, and then also the slash is for the line tool, P for the pen tool, C for the scissors tool. We got shortcut keys everywhere, you guys. I hope that you were able to complete this. And you know what I really want to see on this thing? I really want to see like a face. So if one of you want to create a face on your cactus and tag me on Instagram or Twitter or something, I'll make sure I comment on that. So we'll see who can make a face on this cactus first. Thank you guys. It is way later than I wanted this to be, so I'm probably gonna have to edit this in the morning. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this was as enjoyable and fun to do as the flat design potted plants tutorial and some of the others. I'm Spencer from Pixel and Bracket. I'm about to pass out. I need some water, and I'll see you next time.